This week, we want to take a closer look at the women who are in the running to possibly be the nation's next vice president. Joe Biden was supposed to name his running mate on the Democratic presidential ticket this week, but the former vice president is pushing his decision back while he continues to vet candidates. This morning, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, one of the 4 leaders of Biden's vetting committee, spoke to MSNBC about where things are in the process.
We have amazing women that have been a part of this process. We're keeping them all. We vetted them heavily. All of them have passed a vet. And now in this next week and a half, Mr. Biden can spend some time with them. And I know he's going to pick a vice president that reflects the kind of relationship he had with Barack Obama. He told us at the beginning of this, I'm not looking for a geographic, a demographic, or a political choice. I'm looking for somebody who can serve the American people and be the closest counselor to me in the White House.
And let's bring in CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe to take a look at some of the Veep Stakes candidates. Hi, Ed. So a lot of speculation here. People are itching to know which way Joe Biden is leaning. So let's do a deep dive into some of the top candidates. Let's start with one of the most well-known names on the list, California Senator Kamala Harris. So before joining the Senate in 2017, she was, of course, the top prosecutor for the state of California and the city of San Francisco before that. Born to Indian and Jamaican parents, she's the first person of South Asian descent to ever serve in the Senate and only the second African-American woman. And Harris, as you may remember, ran against Biden for president this cycle, dropping out in December before primaries began. So, Ed, what makes Senator Harris a strategic choice for the Biden campaign, and what potential risks does she bring?
Well, all the attributes you mentioned, Tanya, are certainly positives in one way or another. The fact that she's only the second black woman, the first female attorney general in California, somebody who has been elected statewide before in the nation's largest state. And obviously her presidential campaign, while she never actually appeared on any of the ballots, it did generate a lot of enthusiasm and interest and a belief among her supporters, at least, that somebody like her is certainly capable of being president. So for all those reasons, she remains somebody in the mix. And as some have written, if she gets chosen by Biden, it will in some ways be the longest way possible to get to the inevitable. Because when this entire 2020 process began, really right after the 2018 president or midterm elections, the congressional elections, a lot of people were saying, look, if you're looking at people who might run for president, wouldn't it be great if Joe Biden teamed up with Kamala Harris on a ticket together to try to take back the White House for Democrats? If it happens, a lot of people will say, this is something we were hoping for a long time ago.
All right, so Ed, let's now look at someone who has emerged as a potential contender just of late, Los Angeles Congresswoman Karen Bass. She is currently serving as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Bass also rose up through California state politics, becoming the state assembly speaker before running for federal office. Now, while working as a physician's assistant during Los Angeles's crack epidemic, Bass co-founded a group called Community Coalition, which sought to transform the conditions in South LA. So, Ed, what more should we know about Congresswoman Bass, and what impact could she have on the Biden campaign?
It's unclear what kind of an impact she'd have, Tanya, because she is one of the more lesser-known, untested on the national stage names on this list. A lot of the interest in her is being driven, frankly, by her colleagues in Congress. She is a former Speaker of the California Assembly, one of the largest legislative bodies in the world. Just given, again, the size of California. She comes from Los Angeles, as you mentioned. She is an African-American woman. She's the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, seen as a pretty reliable liberal vote, and somebody who, for years, I've heard mentioned as a possible successor one day to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, should House Democrats continue to hold on to the majority and eventually have to go looking for a new leader. Given her experience in California as the Speaker of that assembly, there's thought that perhaps she could do it again at the national level. But beyond that, there are a lot of questions about her more recent past. She has said things that suggest she's sympathetic to the regime run by the Castro brothers in Cuba. She had visited several times. She spent the weekend trying to clarify and explain that past work, and also is someone who, just frankly, it isn't clear what she might be able to help bring or sort of what type of group she might be able to win over, other than the Democratic base, which of course is critical, but not necessarily a group of people that is unexpected to vote for Biden. So we'll see. She also made clear over the weekend something that is critical to some of those close to Biden helping him with this. She said she has no interest herself in the presidency. So it wouldn't be as if she gets elected vice president and immediately begins a 4 or 8 year campaign to run for president herself.
And that is something you think that Joe Biden values?
We don't know, but we know that some people around him have said they don't necessarily want some partner of his to be focused on their own political future and instead should be focused on governing and dealing with the crises of the moment. We'll see what Biden ultimately decides. It'll be up to him. And that's the other thing to remember. We've got a lot of different groups talking about these people. Members of Congress, various special interest groups. The only person whose opinion matters on this ultimately is Joe Biden's, and whether he feels comfortable working with that person, whether he believes that person is ready to be president if necessary. And it's one of the first decisions a potential president makes that demonstrates to the country, to his party, to the world, that they are able to make a tough decision. And we'll just have to wait and see, for a few more days at least, who it might ultimately be.
All right. And Ed, let's now talk about Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth, because she is one of the few veterans in this group under consideration. She's a former helicopter pilot. Her family has a long record of American military service. In fact, genealogical records show they fought in every major American conflict since the Revolutionary War. That's some pedigree there. After a rocket-propelled grenade attack, she was the first American female double amputee from the Iraq War. She retired from service as a lieutenant colonel, getting involved in Veterans Affairs Administration at the state and federal level. So, Ed, she sounds pretty great on paper. What could make Senator Duckworth the pick for Biden?
Well, you know, if he is looking for somebody who has sort of an indisputable resume and life experience, Duckworth certainly provides it. Again, all the reasons you just mentioned there, her incredible sacrifice and service during the Iraq War, her decision to join the military at a younger age, and then to, you know, obviously deal with what she has dealt with since losing her legs in Baghdad during the war. The one thing that she can kind of trace her political lineage to, while that family lineage of serving in war is incredible, the other thing you have to appreciate, at least in Democratic Party politics, is that she comes out of the Barack Obama, Dick Durbin, and Rahm Emanuel wing of the party. And that is that those three gentlemen, when they were all serving together in Congress, met Duckworth, recruited her to run for Congress, put her in a position to do so. She served briefly in a sort of mid-level leadership role at the Department of Veterans Affairs during the early years of the Obama administration before going home to run for a seat in suburban Chicago in the House that she won, and then won her Senate seat a few years ago, is also the first woman to give birth while in office, the first woman to bring her newborn child to the floor of the Senate and got the rules changed there. So there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of sort of unimpeachable aspects of her life and career that from a political standpoint would make it very hard for Republicans to run against her. But what could she bring potentially to governing the country? That is perhaps where she's a little less tested, where there might be some question about what she's able to do on Biden's behalf. But given her legislative experience, given the fact that she worked in one of the largest federal departments, the Veterans Affairs Department, and again, given her military service, she certainly brings some unique experiences and comes out of that same military generation as Joe Biden's son, Beau, did, having served during the Iraq War.
Yeah, that must create a personal link. All right, well, Ed O'Keefe in Washington, thank you so much. Tomorrow, we will look at 3 more of the women on Joe Biden's reported VP list and what they could bring to a Biden ticket.